Creatives, community, kind folks out there, hello. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, and this week we will continue our demi-daily deep dive into the characters of Game of Thrones and find out what we can, what traits we can take and use in our RPG games at our table or online. So today we're going to go into Arya Stark, the character, the young girl who is very tomboyish in this medieval world, who goes off on her own with a list, a vendetta of the people she plans on killing, and goes on quite an incredible journey, despite the fact that some of us would say that in the middle of her journey, as far as the television show goes, lost a little steam, but then picked up at the end. So we're going to figure out, even with traits or execution that we don't prefer or we feel that may have dropped the ball, we're still going to find some things that we can take to use in our RPG game. Vince, what's going on there, man? I know your schedule's been a little kerflunkled, callywopped, odd to say the least. So thank you for being able to join us today. Yeah, we're going to talk about Arya Stark. And the one thing that really sticks out to me, the first thing that sticks out to me in terms of RPG, and we are not necessarily creating these specific characters for Dungeons and Dragons or whatever game you're thinking of, but we are taking traits from them. So yeah. Yeah, Vince says, yeah, I tried to visit you in the breaks, but my YouTube app doesn't like mobile internet for some reason. So, sorry, man. Sometimes my own internet doesn't like me. I've sometimes in these live streams, it's just like, what is going on? But the first thing that pops out for me with Arya Stark is a blend of special snowflake in this medieval world. Yeah, I'm a fan of her as an actress. I do feel like the execution in the show in the middle of her story arc kind of fumbled a bit, but overall I love the character. And the reason why I mentioned special snowflake is because and I don't mean this in a derogatory term, because I know it's used in a derogatory term in the sense of, let's say, for example, you have a GM and the GM says, hey, I'm going to do a Viking setting. And there are 4 players and 3 players are like, sure, I'll make a Viking. And then you have to have this one person that comes in and goes, well, I want to make a Native American ninja with from Thailand who happened to pass through Madagascar and South America, and everyone's like scratching their head, like, really? Like, do you have to really go out of your way to find the one concept that doesn't fit into this world? And Arya kind of represents a character who's going on a journey unlike any other character in the Game of Thrones world. Vince says not every character can always have interesting stuff to do. What parts do you not like when she was traveling with the Hound? No. I'm saying that generally. Some didn't like her training in the House of Black and White. I know some people had felt that maybe she was a little bit she learned a little bit too quickly along her journeys. But if we take a look at the journey of this character up until the end of season 7, before we get into season 8, she's picked up and learned quite a few things. If we start with the beginning of her life, she's the classic sense of the tomboy, right? She's with her family in Winterfell, and she would prefer to be practicing archery, probably hunting and horseback riding, rather than doing girly things. What what a proper young lady should be doing. Vince says, well, she learned from some great teachers, which is true, right? If you follow her if you follow her journey, I mean, she starts out being an archer plus, I guess you would say a ranger, a woodsman, a woods lady from some of the best, learning how to survive, most likely, as a young lady, even though her father taught her all these things. I'm sure other people looked around like, you really shouldn't be teaching her these skills because she's supposed to get married off. Then, of course, we forward into the fact of she watches her father, beheaded in front of everyone in the court by Joffrey. And at that moment, she's just like, you know what? Like, these people are on my list. Every single one of them is marked with blood, and I'm going to kill them. Vince says she sometimes is too competent, though, faking to be a boy for such a long time and even tricking Tywin. Exactly. And so what I find is in her character arc, we get to see the progression of a player character who has a background that is Harry. Thank you very much for the thumb. I prefer the thumb being straight up I prefer the thumb being vertical, pointed to the sky. So what we find in her character arc is we see this long progression of a player character, I think, as a player character who has a background that fits into the world because this player wanted to make this special concept and worked with the game master to figure out a way to incorporate this character's background into the world, if you follow what I'm saying. So the player had an agenda. Maybe I shouldn't use that word. The player had a character goal and says, I want to achieve this goal in one way. And the game master says, okay, let's work together to figure out a way for your character to become this individual. Because essentially she's the ninja of the Game of Thrones world in a world where there aren't really ninjas. And I'm being very generalized, but if you think about it, that's true. So how does she get that way? So for players out there, this is a great example. For players out there who really want to buck the system, right? You want to play the ninja in the Viking world. Don't argue with your game master about what you want because your game master doesn't want these things in his world. And as game masters, don't automatically say no. It's working together to have it fit into this world. So that's the first thing that I find from Arya. I mean, she's taught by Sirio, I believe his name is, a great swordsman from Bravos, where she's learning to use a rapier and a certain, water style sword method that no one else knows. Then she leaves from there and she ends up traveling with the Hound, who is one of the greatest warriors and swordsmen in the entire world. And also she's taught life lessons from this gentleman. She learns to hide her identity very early on, to hide as a boy so that no one finds out who she is, because she understands how valuable she is as a noble from the House Stark. I mean, there's plenty of things to learn from her. Vince says, being a noble has its boons, though. She was able to learn a lot very young. Yes, noble in this world, and you could extrapolate this out to other medieval settings. Being a noble teaches you a lot. It teaches you about banners and royalty and royal lines and bloodlines and learning to read and write and those kind of things. Thinking far beyond your borders of the world that you can see and touch is another thing I believe nobles learn as well. Vince says, it's not like D&D where a farmer and a noble are basically the same but different. In actual medieval times, only nobles would make proper adventurers, because who else has time to train so much? That's true. Although someone would argue that, well, not farmer, but a peasant might learn certain things because of their environment. But yes, I do agree that, nobles are the only ones who have basically downtime, whereas your average farmer is pretty much pretty much work, work, work. Oh boy, I'm too old and I got sick. I'm going to die. And that's pretty much the life that most the commoners had. Only the special people rise above, which are basically your adventurers. Vince says the House of Black and White and the Many-Faced God are super cool, though. I like the idea, but the execution when she left was super weird. Why did they let her leave after investing so much in her? Harry says they were seeking to kill her. That's why she hid as a boy. Absolutely. Vince says, but then after she killed one of them, they basically gave her blessing and did not follow her further. I think people are, as someone who's trained in in martial arts, I guess I see it from a different point of view, because in essence, she learned from in the House of Black and White. She learned everything she needed to learn. She graduated. We may not understand or may not find a straight line between her graduation, but she graduated. She learned what she needed to do. She learned the lesson that, you know, Arya Stark isn't no one. She is someone. She's Arya Stark, and she completely believes in her goal, which is to kill these people, which is what the Many-Faced God does. The Many-Faced God dispenses death, and what better way to dispense death than to go after the people that deserve it? Now, Jack and Hagar may not, and the Many-Faced God may say, well, you're kind of doing this on your own, but that was the case, right? Here's this individual who not only learned from them, but in a way kind of tricked them into learning what she needed to do to accomplish her goals. And he kind of gave her the tip of the hat. It's like there's a concept from coaches and trainers and teachers that you never give a student 5 stars out of 5. You never give a student a 100%. You always give them something that they can always achieve no matter how great they are. And you wait for that student to realize their greatness rather than you telling them that they're great. It's the idea of training for a black belt, right? The teacher says you're ready to train. It's not the student going like I want to get my black belt. It's you train, and the teacher looks at you and goes, "Yeah, you're ready." You know, and it's not a lesson of I'm going to see if you're ready. It's more or less a teacher's like, "Yeah, you're ready. You don't know you're ready, but I know you're ready. So go ahead and you can leave now because you're already ready." Yeah. Vince says, but then after she killed one of them, he said, yeah, maybe it is his agenda anyways. Harry says, never teach them all you know. Exactly. That's another weird quirk with it when it comes to training, especially in martial arts. It's like your teachers never want to teach you everything because they want you to come back and learn just a little bit more. Or if they have a handful of students, they'll teach each student something different and watch and see if you learn from the nugget that they taught you. You know, it's I'm going to teach you how to fight with a staff or a knife and see if you learn how to use that talent with other weapons like swords and shields and, you know, nunchaku and sai or something like that. So while people didn't understand it, she actually graduated, and she probably her fight for life or death against the that little brat that kept picking with her. That was her graduation test. And Jock and Hagar was just like, one of them's going to die. Oh, whatever. And one of them did die. And he's like, okay, well, I guess that the Many-Faced God picked it. But going back into the Many-Faced, rewinding a little bit into her time in the Many-Faced God. Hey, JP, what's going on? Thanks for the thumb. Yeah, Harry says experience plus training plus perception. Yes, she learned she learned blind fighting by being blind. She learned how to carve people's faces off to take the flesh off of people's faces and use that to cover her own face, which we now understand there's a little bit of a mystical element to it. So her body changes, maybe her size, her voice. her mannerisms that she's learned to experience. So yeah, exactly. JP says, nice early starter here. Did daylight saving get cashed out? No, we're in the US, or at least in my time zone. Yeah, we've got daylight saving going on. So not sure about everybody else around the world. But yeah, just I mean, her entire arc. I mean, carving people's faces off, learning blind fighting, combining her sword skills and her, I guess you could say, her ninja skills, her skills of deception, her skills of perception, human perception, in terms of watching people and knowing their motivations, finding out their ticks, their quirks, their body behavior, their internal motivations. What do they really want? What are they saying? What are the things that person is saying without using words to say it? And she learned all these things to return home. So what I find from her as a PC is basically she's like the ninja of the world. And as a game master, maybe a player that wants to play something that's really off the beaten path, the person that's like, everyone's human, and that person wants to, I want to play a drow elf, I want to play a dragonborn, I want to play a tiefling. Instead of having a fight, work with that person, and then as a player, work with the GM to say, okay, I want to play a tiefling, but I understand they don't exist. Could I reskin my tiefling as a human being, and they are a tribe or they are a pagan group that has been cursed, or people believe that their origins come from an infernal source? Then you can say, all right, as a game master, you're like, I see where you're going with this. Give me some more information, and then go, okay. There's this religious organization that's also made up of assassins. It's you know what I mean? Yeah. Harry says she learned to be the person she was pretending to be. Exactly. I absolutely believe that, right? She became the person she was trying to pretend to be. She started out this young girl who's like, I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to hide as a boy, and I'm going to hide my identity until one day I can come back and exact revenge. And she did it. She achieved it. So yeah. Dez, what's going on there? Sorry, I just saw that. Vince says ninja assassin. Yeah, maybe even doppelganger. Absolutely. Yeah. Vince said, well, what did they say in The Last Jedi? We are what they grow beyond. That is the burden of all teachers. Exactly. She learned and developed beyond what the House of Black and White could control or encompass. I think he saw in her, yeah, she's already learned everything she needs to know. She's got a greater path to follow, and she doesn't belong here. She doesn't need to be here. She needs to travel out. And he found a great student. If you think about it, here he finds this girl who was a confluence of events, and yet she still had this strength in her, and was like, I wonder if, even he might be thinking, she's come across my path. Wonder if she's a student that I'm supposed to be looking for. And there are many coaches and teachers and mentors and senseis and such out there that find students that are violent or emotionally distressed, or physically other people have turned them away from learning sports or martial arts or something, or whatever the case may be. And that one teacher's like, I'm gonna teach this kid. Everyone cast them aside, but I'm gonna teach them. They have behavior problems. They've been in trouble with the law. They are introspective and they can't break out of their shell. I'm going to teach them. And that's where a lot of teachers find some of their best students. There's plenty of coaches that take the worst kids in the school and are just like, you know what? I want them on my team because maybe they want or crave some kind of regularity, some kind of goal to achieve, and I'm going to give it to him. Vin says, I'm super curious what her path will lead to. I think she will at least kill someone super important. Not sure if she will survive. I think she's a doomed character. I think many of the Game of Thrones characters are doomed because of the path they've chosen. Not sure who she's going to kill. I mean, there's some apparent things, right? Not Sansa, geez. Cersei is one that shows up. I don't know. I'm pretty sure the Hound is off her list, but there's a lot of people that want to surround Cersei, like Caesar, and want to give her a nice little stab in the back, or cut her throat or something like that. So I'm not sure if they're going to reserve Cersei's death for her. It might be at the hands of her brother, but I do think she will kill someone else that's very important, because she killed Littlefinger. Now, if we take Arya and want to use her as like an NPC or an enemy or some such, I think she really represents someone that oddly enough, a lot of PCs kind of think that don't exist in her own world. Vince says, I think Arya is a great example of a character where the focus of her story is mainly growth. A lot of her time is dedicated to her becoming what she needed to be. And what a great way. I think that's a great example to teach players who may not, they've left their character growth open to what they're going to experience, and then just let the encounters tell them within the story how they should grow, right? Because if you think about it, she starts out as basically, I just want to be a tomboy, and I don't want to get married to a young man and just be married off in this very patriarchal society. And she starts to learn all of these skills. I need to hide because they killed my father, and so I'm going to hide as a boy. And then, working with the game master, it's like, maybe disguise skills. How about that? And they're like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And then how about rapier sword skills? Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And then, the Hound grabs her and wants to sell her off. And it's like, how about learning some life lessons and gaining some, mental skills or attributes or something? And it's like, yeah, that sounds really good. And how about going to Bravos? I'm going to go back to Bravos, where my original teacher came from, and use this coin and the faceless men, and just allowing the story to guide your growth. So I absolutely agree with you that she's a great example of a character who's undergone a lot of growth, yet at the same time, her core has remained the same. Now, what I don't think is a great idea is I want to exact revenge on my enemies, because it's like either you'll never achieve it or you will achieve it. And either way, there's a loss there. There's a terminal end that doesn't fit in role-playing games. Because if you say, I have a list of 17 people I want to kill, and you kill all 17, then it's like, yeah, well, now what does your character do? Or if you have a list of 17 people you want to kill, and you kill 16 of them and then don't kill the 17th, and the game dies, then it's like, oh man, I never achieved my goal. So personally, in a book, I think it's a great. In a role-playing game, I'm not a great fan of that, unless the player is really, really wants to be flexible with it. Jared P says, I'm unfamiliar with this topic. I'm guessing this is a TV show of some kind. Yeah, I hope you're being sarcastic. If not, don't worry about it. We will give you don't really need to know much. You just need to know that Arya Stark is a young girl that went on a journey that became essentially a medieval ninja. Vince says, this is rarely done in RPGs. I think they have a goal, but then they need to do something first or become more competent in order to be successful. And this may be a campaign on its own. I do agree with you that it is rarely done in RPGs. Most of the time, it's a straight line, right? Like my character, the evil, big bad evil guy killed everyone in my village, and I'm going to kill him. Done. As opposed to saying the big bad evil killed everyone in my village. or dad or whatever the case may be. And now I need to go in this snake-like, circuitous, like roundabout way of learning as much as I can, going on a worldwide journey to these distant lands to finally gain the skills that I need and realize that I'm ready to, commit to my revenge, which is rarer. Vince says, I don't think she will kill Cersei. She is doomed to be killed by her brother, lover. Yeah, I think so too. JP says, usually a revenge character is like the start of your character's motivation. You'd hope to develop some other bonds along the way, which let's think about this. She developed quite a few bonds. She made relationships with the Hound, who's like who she perceives as this murderous, barely just knight who was burned on the face. She has a relationship with Pot Pie, the young man who really only wants to bake pot pies. Brienne, the female knight who's consumed with honor and justice, but this world just won't knight. It's just weird. She makes a lot of friends and contacts along the way, which is something that the murder hobo of some players is like, I'm an orphan and I don't have family and I kill everyone, as opposed to saying, well, my character developed a lot of connections along the way, some family, some friends, some people who may not even understand her background. And what great little threads a GM can pull off of that too, along her path of revenge and redemption and such. Vince says, hey, you guys need to be level 10 and gain some very specialized skills in order to even have a chance at killing the big bad evil guy. How are you going to try to do this? Yeah, he says, saying that almost sarcastically, but it's true, right? If you're first level and the dragon burns up the village, players don't normally go, I need to go on a journey of a self-discovery first. That's not usually the case, but in her story, that's exactly what happened. Now, it could be that there are outside motivators that push characters into this strange serpentine travel, whether it could be the weather or it could be political upheaval. It could be far more capable and powerful individuals pushing and prodding the characters, whether they are they're enslaved and are captured, or they're jailed, or like Arya, she was captured by the Hound and she knows there's no way she could escape from the Hound. She has to hide as a boy, and there's like the men without banners that live in the woods, who are still like almost like a reaction, who end up capturing her and such. So I think as a player character, it behooves you to let the GM tell a bit of a story and try not to fight against it, but dive into it. Hey, the big bad evil guy has taken a sailing ship and going out to the islands, and I want to take a sailing ship, but the winter storms have come and frozen the rivers and the lakes, and we can't travel. So I'm stuck here for 3 months, and maybe go on an adventure there instead of, yelling at the game master, like, I wanted to kill the person that took, I want to take revenge and you stopped me, instead of saying, well, this is maybe just a story element. Yeah, hot pie. Yeah. Yeah. Harry says, hello, my name is Indigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Yeah, exactly. And he goes on a long trip too to learn swordsmanship and fighting each person he comes to confront to kill to kill the person that killed his father. Yeah, Hot Pie was the young man that she met, who, hey, he achieved his goal. He wanted to make hot pies and become a cook. Yeah. Dead Man Storyteller says, or Mom, Iron Man in Civil War. Oh, yeah, yes. So someone kills his mom, and he's like, yeah, but you killed my mom. Exactly. He didn't say anything about his dad. Yeah, you killed my mom. F you. Vince says, usually in campaigns, they just get stronger along the way. Getting stronger is rarely the objective itself, because at least in D&D, training isn't really a thing. You need to be adventuring. Well, I think that does us. I think we do a disservice of gaining experience and leveling up or gaining points for your character, because we could reskin and reshape and retell that story. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're travel. I fight something. Oh, I've learned something else. Travel. It could be that you must return to an old mentor to teach you a new sword skill to level up, or travel with a band of mercenaries who teaches you how to sail on the open seas. And maybe the captain of the ship is like, you know what, thank you for joining us, but your story is on land, not with us. And they kick you off the ship, and now you've learned these new skills. Or having an internship with a wizard or something like that for a short time, or what have you. We tend to downplay what it takes to gain our new skills for our characters, as opposed to saying, hey, I've got new spells for my wizard. I literally had to travel 200 miles to this one tower to learn from this one wizard in this school with 5 other students. And when I've left, I maybe obtained an enemy from one of the students, or the teacher was poisoned after I left, or while I was there, and the other 4 students were all looking at each other, and we all scattered to the winds because we didn't want to be next, but we don't know who poisoned the teacher. Like, we don't necessarily make a story out of gaining a new level. And part of that too is we're, air quotes, adventuring the entire time. So there really isn't space to go back home, delve into the social ramifications, then go back out again. Vince says Shadowrun, for example. In some other RPGs, you always need training time to actually learn something new, and you need XP just to unlock the ability to train. Exactly. So it is because he says Shadowrun, for example, there is this idea that you need the time to train and the experience points to train, and combining them together could be, it's almost like it's like going to a teacher to learn something new, and the teacher's like, well, you're not ready yet. So then you go out into the world, you gain, quote unquote, your experience points first, and then the teacher looks at you and like, yeah, you're ready now. And it could be unlocking something emotional in someone, almost like a fresh-eyed individual that joins the military might not be ready to advance, but once they're in combat, there's something about their personality, the things that they've experienced, that maybe you can't really put your finger on, but they've experienced something in the world, and somebody else can like nod their head like, yeah, you're ready now. Like you I don't know what happened to you, but I know you saw the world. I know you saw, whether it's death or destruction, or you've been, the world's kicked your ass quite a bit, and yeah, you're ready now. So that could be the thing that unlocks these new skills, because maybe when you were younger, you just weren't ready for it. PC wise, right? Maybe your character was an adventurer and you want to kill the dragon because the dragon burned down your village. And when you go out into the world and everyone's laughing at you because the whole time you're like, I'm going to kill the dragon. And everyone's like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. And you keep stumbling. And then one day you go along and you're like, you know what? I don't have the skills yet. I just really don't have the skills. And then when you return to the master swordsman, wandering master swordsman that never takes a student, they look at you and like, yeah, you're humble enough. I'll teach you some sword skills out here in the woods and such. Vince says in the Dark Eye, you can cut your training time down drastically by using a teacher. It really pays in the system to learn teaching to help your fellow PCs if your GM doesn't just hand out teachers. And that's another thing too. We tend not to accentuate, and that is, in a vacuum, looking at a book and looking at your character sheet in a vacuum, we can say, oh, well, if I take this combination of traits and abilities and skills, my character will be more effective. But within the game, I think it's a far stronger connection to say have the rogue character learn religion from the cleric in the group after having their life saved a couple times by being touched by the gods, i.e. getting healing spells, right? Getting a bless spell. I mean, role playing that part out and having maybe the rogue character's next level is like, well, it doesn't make sense for me to gain a level of cleric on paper, but at the table at this very moment in this game in Dungeons and Dragons, it makes perfect sense that my character would want to learn or appreciate what the gods could teach him because his life has been changed, as maybe his eyes has been opened. And within that game, it might be super effective, right? The rogue character is may be the character who's constantly being hunted, but once they start but maybe they find refuge in a religious order because now this one character has learned, wants to learn the ways, and the parishioners in the church are looking at this character like they're just a vagabond, they're a thief, they're a cutthroat, and maybe the head of the religious order looks at him and like, no, they're not, no, they're ready to learn something. Come on in, that's a story element that I just came up with on the fly, rather than I have a path for my character and I'm going to pick these feats without it growing organically from what's going on. So yeah, I think the fighter in the group could teach the wizard a little bit of swordsmanship, the rogue teaching the paladin skills in how to hide themselves and dirty up their armor or paint their armor black or something like that. So yeah, Vince says, quote, better than 1,000 days of diligent study is one day with a great teacher. And so absolutely. And maybe the teachers don't necessarily have to be a classic teacher, right? It could be the paladin who's gotten their ass kicked and a rogue band of vagabonds gathers this person who's been beat up and abused in this cutthroat town, of fiends and despicable people. And maybe this one vagabond like looks at this person like, I don't know why, but I'm going to take pity on you. Maybe it's because of your quote unquote high charisma that I don't know, something about you just draws me to you. So I'm going to help you out. And so it could be that the teacher just happens to be someone that finds something special about them, takes pity on them. How many times have we seen a movie or read a book or read a comic book or seen a television show where the hero's on death's door and they are nurtured back to life by the farming family or the religious person or the cutthroat that suddenly now has a heart of gold, or the rebel faction that's looking for the one hero that could help them out and bring them back to their wounds. And when they the wound always takes, heals with the speed of narration, right? Because they're out there practicing with a sword and then maybe practicing with a bow or a staff or something, or they're learning how to ride an animal or what have you, or they're teaching the young boy that lives with the farming family how to practice martial arts or whatever, what have you. And, the mom is looking out into the fields and watching this go on and watching her son, become a man or something. And then of course the bad guy has to come by and kill them all. So, but you get what I'm saying. A teacher doesn't necessarily need to be in a college. A teacher could be a lone hermit living in the woods. It could be the old hag that lives in the swamp, but you find out that the old hag really isn't an old hag at all. It could be something else. The old hag could literally be a Dungeons and Dragons hag that lives out there, but for some reason, don't know why, teaches this person just some alchemy, teaches them some evil rituals or something, teaches them, brings the young boy and planned on putting the young boy in one of her meat pies and was like, you know what? want to teach him how to survive out here in the swamp. And maybe the little boy becomes like a ranger in the swamp or something. Hey, kitty. Yeah, you're going to have to get down for a moment. Vince says, in Numenera, I had the idea for a background for a character where a sentient danger room trains the PC. Trains the PC his very specialized skills until he becomes good enough to escape the room. I like that idea. You could translate that idea to anything. Science fiction, the danger room, the X-Men's danger room, the Holo, the Star Trek, and the Holo chamber. There could be a pocket dimension that a wizard sends their students to. And when you escape the pocket dimension, the wizard kicks you out into the dark alley, closes the door, and then the door is just a blank wall or something, right? You could have what a great idea for that. Where you're trained in this other place. Harry says the busty barmaid with a heart of gold. Well, that actually is a thing too. Love ourselves some busty barmaids. Vince says having a teacher as a shortcut into gaining feats, spells, or XP would be awesome. Just reach this teacher and then we play for a while how the training goes and everyone gains these special proficiencies and XP enough for a full level, for example. You could even make a sentient dungeon as a teacher. Absolutely. And like you said, finding the teacher could be the adventure itself. So it may not be killing the dragon. It could be finding the teacher to help you kill the dragon, or it could be killing the dragon and then afterwards then finding the teacher. So we tend to underplay that. So I think the Arya Stark character, going back to Arya Stark, is a perfect example of finding the teacher. And sometimes finding the teacher might even be a random accident. You could be on a sailing ship and it could be a Bermuda Triangle kind of thing where stealing something from Star Trek, a super powerful being from another dimension that has, godlike powers captures you and your group and tests the PCs until they succeed in something and lets them go. Whether that success is unlocking something inside of themselves, whether it's, getting rid of their guilt or finding a new passion for their divine heritage or learning, to perfect that one swordsman skill or something like that. Everyone says, I didn't wake up and miss the episode. You're fine. You're always welcome here, man. You don't worry about it. Yeah. Vince says, I missed a couple of weeks already, Zev. Don't worry. Exactly. Yeah, I'm here like a bad infection. So yeah, just scratch the pus-filled bump and you're done. Zev says stayed up late actually going to DM an upcoming game though. Never done that before. Ooh, sweet. ATL Atlanta? Is that what you mean? Oh, so the adventure in discovering the teacher could be an adventure in itself. And how about this idea? The adventure to find a teacher is so harrowing, so dangerous, and puts the characters through such peril and doom that when they finally find the teacher, the lone hermit up on the mountain, when they finally get up there, the hermit is like, well, you got up here, you learned everything you need to do. So I'm going to make some food. You guys take a nap and I'm going to leave. I mean, that's a trope too. The act of finding the teacher themselves is the adventure that taught you what you needed to learn when you got there. If that I don't know if I'm making sense with it. Vince says, feels good to join you though. Wish I could do that more often. Yeah, don't worry about it. So everyone says, at least it's a character I don't care about, Arya. Oh, leave her alone, man. No, but I mentioned that early on that the Arya Stark character isn't really, at least the execution in her storyline wasn't the best, but we can still learn from it. So yeah, the exploration of finding a teacher, and let's go into like an adversary, making her or this type of character an adversary. I find that making her an adversary is a great way for her to, as the GM, to have an adversary that's learning and growing along with the player characters. So when the player characters go to the swamp of despair, and one adversary starts to follow them, maybe that character learns to survive in the swamp and maybe gains some allies that are lizardmen. And then when the characters then travel onto the desert of despair as well, when they go from the swamps of despair to the deserts of despair, I don't know why they're the same. Now this character with these lizardmen, this adversary with this cadre of lizardmen, maybe they befriend some orcs that are riding on giant scorpions, and they've learned skills with poison or learned to read the stars or something, right? So you could have an NPC that grows along with the players, gaining knowledge about the environment and gaining connections and gaining skills and even powers that grow along with the player characters. So I think that would be a great idea. It doesn't happen very often, but is a good trope for a game master to learn. Vince says there's this great short movie about two guys who find a treasure map and have all kinds of adventures and gain cool skills along the way. And at the end, there is no treasure, but a giant mirror showing them how cool they have become getting there. Yeah. And I couldn't quite describe that, but yes, that sometimes is the trope where there's this idea that you're going to gain this great power. There's going to be something unlocked if you just find this valuable treasure that no one has ever been able to achieve. And when you get there, there's a mirror, and it's basically you on how you got to from where you've come to where you are today. So yeah, that's a trope, but I mean, why not use it? Because it's only a trope because it's been used in the past, but it's also good to pull in those strings if you haven't used it in the present day. So yeah. Zevron says maybe the adversary is a young thief or assassin or warrior the players come across multiple times. The paladin explains what they are doing isn't right. They seem confused and run away. Yeah, of course. And then maybe that person, like you said, that thief or assassin or warrior, has a strong connection to one of the PCs, maybe a younger brother or sister. Maybe this is a younger student from like a squire from a knight's order. It could be a wizard student that was horrifically injured or abused by a wizard, and the wizard just kicked them out to the curb and everyone else feels sorry for them. And so this individual could have a strong tie to one or more of the player characters. And over time, that character is kind of following them / tracking them on their way, yet grows into an adversary that becomes far more powerful. And of course, along the way, they learn thieving, like roguish skills. They learn wizardry skills. They learn and shaped NPC wise, right? They learn skills from a hag. They learn how to change their form from a doppelganger. I don't know. They take an alchemical formula that transforms them into a horrific beast when they want to, or gain lycanthropy, or they become a vampire or something like that, along with learning, ninja skills and wizardry skills and whatnot, and magic items and et cetera, right? So sure, it could be a little bit of a Mary Sue character, but done in a way that grows, so it makes more sense story-wise. Yeah. Vince says Dragon Ball did this too with the magic water, which will make you strong, but you got strong trying to obtain the water. Yeah, climbing up the tower and getting it from the teacher. Exactly. Exactly. It's the you need to do this thing to find the teacher, and when you find a teacher, the teacher says, well, did you accomplish that thing? And you're like, yeah. Okay, well, then you did it. You could also have an event where the teacher instructs the student to do something that is outside the norm. So when you find a teacher, the teacher says, listen, I want you to go down to the village and I want you to build a temple. And the character's like, dude, I'm like a thief and a cutthroat. I don't have religion. Like, why are you telling me to do this? You want to learn this new talent? You want to learn these new skills? Go down there and help them build a temple. And along the building the temple, maybe, you know, the village is ravaged by people. Maybe there's other kind of problems that the character uncovers in this small village. As a side effect, maybe they start helping the village with other things, and they never get around to actually finishing building the temple. But when they come back to the teacher after 5 seasons or whatever the case may be, the teacher's like, don't worry about it. You learned everything you needed to do. Like, but I never built the temple. That's all right. You learned enough, right? Maybe they gained a conscience or something or whatever. Zevron says one day they meet the paladin in secret and ask what they mean. The paladin tries to explain how to be good, and that their master was evil. The Arya character's whole view is shattered and struggles to change for the better. Why not? An NPC doesn't necessarily need to be there just for information dumping. Right? It doesn't need to be the shopkeep that and all you do is just exchange information. It could be a young character that's trying to grow and is distraught and meets the paladin after every adventure, for good or bad. It doesn't need to be. It could be the roguish character has a younger sister that wants to join them, and the roguish character doesn't want them to be in a life of crime. It could be the wizard character that has an aunt or uncle that, is suffering from some kind of addiction or what have you. And a rival alchemist is always dealing them, these rival alchemical things that's keeping them hooked on drugs. And the wizard player character is like, I got to stop this. And they keep going back to this, the alchemist or the apothecary that's giving them these drugs or whatever. And, it could be wrong for them to assault someone else who's learned from the same wizard's school, but maybe eventually they do have to have a confrontation or what have you. Vince says, I think Arya is also a great example how to make a frenemy, aka the Hound. She hates him, but also has a bond with him at the same time. I absolutely agree with that as well. There doesn't need to be a simple delineation between good and evil or enemy and friend. Like you said, a frenemy, this person who, what a great way to have the paladin travel with the assassin, right? If the paladin saves the life of the assassin, maybe the assassin's like, there's a certain way to get things done, and you're just going to get us all killed with your stupid honor and justice. But, on the other hand, I respect you a lot, and I'll play it by your rules for now. You know what I mean? Or the paladin's like, every time I try to get something done, it works against me. But I'm going to save the life of this one cutthroat. I don't know why. Maybe if I just save one life, and then the cutthroat's like, don't worry about this. I'll help you in your journey or whatever. But you can't, don't judge me on what I'm doing. And then the paladin's like, I'm going to change his personality, And then, of course, with NPCs, it's the same way, right? An NPC could have an enemy in the group that they meet, but at the same time, they're kind of like, they could be on the same side. It would be like 2 rebel groups trying to accomplish the same goal to overthrow the king, but they're using different methods to do so. Going back into the chat, Vincent says, by the way, did you guys see all the Love, Death Robots yet? It's a bit of off topic, but it's still great to watch. I haven't seen them all yet. Some of them, yeah, there's like 19 short movies. Really bizarre too, I think. Vince says, also, I think Arya is a great example that just playing the eternally 21 character is not always the most interesting thing to do. Age can create very nice role-playing opportunities. I personally like playing really old characters. We often don't delve into a character that ages, especially when it ages out of the group they used to be part of. The aging from adolescence into adulthood, or young adult to older adult, more mature, maybe meeting their friends and family who still think of them as young. the fuzzy-headed young person, but now they've grown older and bigger and gained 50 pounds of muscle and seen death and destruction. But the people at home still look at them like, you're still the sandy-headed kid, fuzzy-headed kid. Or they may even look at them like, whoa, like just looking at you, I can see you've been through hell and back, So no, we often don't age our characters. We don't see them gaining their first gray hairs or the lines in their face, in their body, maybe their body even changing where they start to lose muscle mass a little bit, or they feel their voice is changing, or they grow a little bit. They grow 3 inches over 3 to 6 inches. I mean, we've seen kids have growth spurts. I mean, how cool would it be to have your character outgrow their clothes and their armor over time, right? So I agree with you, Vince. The Eternal 21 is a trope that I think we could really play with by going, no, my character's started out at 21, but he's now 37, and life's beating them down a little bit, but they've learned a lot. Zevron says, I'm getting a Dante and Nero vibe from this. Dante from Devil May Cry is a godlike warrior, and his nephew is new to fighting. The nephew doesn't know they are related and just thinks Dante is an a-hole. As they travel together and get closer and learn what is important in life, Nero unlocks his demon abilities and becomes stronger and stronger until he can actually beat Dante. I played a life cleric that was a former soldier who lost all their squad mates in war and saw many die in front of them after they pledged a life in service to the goddess of life, old and tired. You know what? That's something that I think is a great trait to pull on in terms of like, not just in character creation, but like you mentioned, a character who grows like this cleric of life who's seen all their people killed and then has a different outlook on what they want to accomplish. It's the pious and just characters who are beaten down by life, or it's the callous and pragmatic and soulless characters that learn that they learn to gain a soul by seeing what is good about life and justice and warmth, from maybe living with a family or something, and then juxtaposing their old life with their new life and the things that they've learned along the way. So it's very hard to get that across in a game when it's very hard to mechanize that. And it kind of takes the life out of it if you put a mechanical element to it. I think the best way to do it is to allow characters to change things like elements in their background, maybe swap out or change skills, maybe learning some new traits or feats or whatever game you're playing from other character classes or options that aren't normally very much apparent in the game. For example, having a rogue become blessed with the ability to gain channel life through from a cleric ability, right? Not a feat, but not become a full cleric, but they just gain like the laying on hands from a paladin's background. And when they gain a level, that's what they gain. And so you're kind of breaking the rules a little bit, but they've earned it because of maybe sacrificing themselves in the name of a god they really don't believe in, but they know other people believe in that god. So maybe they almost sacrifice themselves for it. And that might be the impetus for them being blessed by this divine being, even though that character themselves is like, I don't believe in the gods, or who wants to follow the gods? All they do is make you do things and sacrifice and blah, blah, blah. But maybe along the line, that's what they get. So maybe it is a great opportunity for them to gain a boon, flipping open the Dungeon Master's Guide and giving them a boon of some sort, as opposed to just gaining another level in some class abilities. Vince says, yeah, I once had a cleric of Lathander, which is a god of youth, but he was really old. Playing this was pretty interesting. I like that. And a very old ancient person for a god of youth. I love that. Zevron says this interesting to play characters with clashing backgrounds to their class, like a noble barbarian or pirate paladin. Yeah, I played a sage barbarian one time. And like you said, a pirate paladin, and not automatically assuming that it can't fit, but finding out why does it fit. Now, talking about what you're saying, Zevron, it doesn't necessarily mean you're a noble who became a barbarian or a pirate who became a paladin. You could play a class who became their background. So you could be a paladin that became a pirate, or a barbarian that found out that they had noble blood and became a noble. So that's another way of playing a character too, that you were a rogue who becomes a hermit, or you were a wizard who becomes a sailor or something like that, right? Pirate, or what's another background? An acolyte or something. So that's possible. Vince says, yeah, that's true. A thing very few people actually do, but is one of the great opportunities the background system can create. Yeah. A religious rogue is also interesting. Exactly. Someone could become, it's the criminal who goes knocks on the door of the religious order and gets brought in, but still, wants to use their skills to protect the religious order, because maybe none of the people in the religious order have any combat skills. So this person, seeks to defend them and whatnot. Or, a religious rogue, an acolyte rogue, could be someone who is given orders by the church to do shadowy things. Zevron says, my pirate paladin was a former sailor that was left to die after a battle. He scrounged together a way to make a new life. He needed money and went into piracy out of desperation. Makes perfect sense to me. After years, he goes into repentance, but he flashes that notorious grin to help do some good every now and then. Exactly. And here again is a thing where I think sometimes we make concrete when there should be water. So we're like, oh, a paladin should be in glowing armor and a sword and ride a white horse. And no, they don't. And having I love the idea of having this pirate paladin who is like, living on the life of repentance and redemption, and every once in a while has to spend some coin in a brothel just for old time's sake. You know what I mean? I think that's a great idea, and I would absolutely allow that. I wouldn't do the whole you're playing outside of your alignment or your oath thing, whatever. A great character concept is a great character concept, and then we just find rules for it to fit as best as possible. And if the rules don't fit, it's struggleable. Just whatever. We'll get a greater idea. Vince says, I once had a half-orc druid, which was mentally challenged, in as low as possible, but still super high wisdom. He could be a folk hero druid, for example. Exactly. And who's to say, playing against type, I understand that some people find that playing against type makes the character weaker numerically, but in the concept of the world in which you're playing, it might be extremely useful. A half-orc druid might both have allies on the orcish side and the druidic side that the other player characters may not have. Just like the paladin that's a pirate, maybe the pirates don't have too much mercy for this paladin's order until they hear a good word from one of their own. One of their own might be like, hey, well, listen, don't leave them out to die, man. They don't know what they know not what they do. And the pirates are like, you know what? All right, fine. Just because of you, not because of them, but we're doing this for you because you're one of us. So we will save their lives or whatnot. A paladin is human. No one said they have to be perfect to attempt to be a paladin. One just has to be dedicated to being better. They can stumble, but as long as they grow and climb out, it doesn't matter. Perfect descriptor, right? The paladin who has a gambling addiction, or loves to indulge in the carnal the carnal pleasures of the flesh, no matter their race or religion or gender, and no matter their choice of carnal choice or whatever, right? I mean, and maybe these are things where they feel guilty. It's not a matter of them stumbling it's the act of it's falling 7, getting up 8, right? You always want to stand up 8 times, one more than you've fallen. So maybe the paladin just stumbles too many times and keeps getting back up. And that journey to me is far better than arguing at the table and doing a well actually with you, Zev, about what your character should be doing. No, it's let's play this out. When in doubt, role play it out. You know what I mean? Vince says background isn't really that huge of a folklore mechanically speaking, and having a background you enjoy playing theoretically gives you inspiration more often. The main message of Captain Marvel standing up more times than you fall. Exactly. And I think it makes a better story to have a character that falls and then gets back up instead of being perfect and never falling at all. And when we say fall, of course, you know, the classic, the paladin or cleric that goes against their order or their oath, but we have other characters that can fall. You know, it's the rogues and assassins and quote unquote cutthroats and evil people can fall by taking mercy on their enemies or following along or being convinced or quote unquote corrupted by the side of good. You know, you were supposed to assassinate this, you know, this family, but you get to the family and you see there's a wife and child and there's kids and you're like, I'm not killing kids and women, but the other people in your thieves guild might be like, or assassins guild might be like, dude, you failed to kill these people. You said you never failed in your job, and you're folding your arms like, well, so, you know, they didn't deserve to die, and you're like, I think you're losing your edge. You know what I mean? That's a great story arc, as opposed to, well, I'll just kill the family and kids and stuff because my character always completes their mission. That's yeah, but no. Zev says paladins deserve better treatment. If they are lawful stupid, they are lawful implacable morality. There is no room for change or interesting character moments. Exactly. There absolutely should be room for growth. It's like the yin yang symbol, right? The yin yang symbol with the black and the white, and then the black, a little bit of black inside the white and a little bit of the white inside of the black. And for me, that's how characters should be. You know, the extremely lawful and good characters should have a little bit of a darkness in them. And the really dark and evil characters should have a little bit of goodness in them that gets pulled on just a little bit to the point where that becomes a really great character trait, and other people that look at them like kind of raise their eyebrows like, really? Oh, you're more interesting than I thought you were, instead of playing one note. Vincent says, I think they did a better job for paladins in Dungeon World. There they are focused on quests, not on oaths. But even quests, oaths, even being like, even alignment systems, again, it's not a fault of the system. It's a fault of us by not allowing the stories to be told, and by just using concrete instead of water to tell our stories. Anyway, we've gone past the hour mark. Despite what everyone thinks, there are things that we can learn from the Arya Stark character. Look at the direction we went, the deep dive we went into. Even if it isn't directly from her character, in the Game of Thrones, again, good execution, bad execution doesn't matter. There are things we can always learn. So again, tomorrow we will go into another character. I'm not going to tell you who it is because, like you guys, I want to be surprised by it. And we're going to end, of course, this week with Game of Thrones. Next week, we're going to go back into the Avengers character lineup, some minor characters, some major characters, and just have fun. Just have fun. Stop it. Yeah, how to make a better character than Arya. Shing. Oh, I'm going to let you end it on that one. So, guys, have a great one. We will see you tomorrow. Next week, we'll do the Avengers. I love it. Zing. Have a great day. See ya. Bye.